Okay, let's get started. Welcome. So this month's block is, I don't know what we call it, square and a half square triangle. So, do pressure seams open? We're going to talk about that in a minute. There is a lot of bulk on this quilt, and so when it comes time to quilt, because I made another version of it, because I like to have a small version because the store ends up keeping the large one. So there's what it looks like with the 4-inch cube. And in these sections right here where you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces of fabric, that adds a lot of bulk. And it will make it easier for you to get this to lay flat. It'll make it easier for your quilter to quilt it. And I'm not the biggest fan of pressing seams open, but when you have something like this that has all of these intersections, it does help. So AccuQuilt recommends it just by default. I don't always press my seams open with AccuQuilt. It just depends on what I'm doing and how much bulk there's going to be, and you can actually feel some of the places in the quilt, and I'll bring it around, where, like, it can feel right here. You can feel a big old knot where all of those seams have come together. And that's still pressing open. So it just depends on the quilt. So I've got other quilts that we've done that I'm like, nope, press them to the left or to the right, or, you know, towards the dark side, whichever one works. Cutting. So we're going to go back to last month, the borders. Were you here last month? No. Okay. So straight grain. Let's find out where I am on that. Okay. So straight grain is going to be on this bottom edge, right? And so we're cutting strips much longer than this. This is my straight grain. And so the way that you're going to put this on your die is just like this. And you want the straight grain to go through, so you're just going to rotate the die. And if you follow AccuQuilt's instructions, the label is to your belly. So just the opposite of what I did.
Salvage is along with the
Yes.
straight grain. Okay.
Yes. Okay. So once you have your first piece cut, you're just going to rotate your die and just spin it all the way around. So my first one was cut like this towards me. You're just going to spin it and lay it down. And I usually stack my strips together so that you end up with this. So this is what you should end up seeing when you are cutting this shape out. And that gives you the straight grain on the bottom. The reason that's important, and I would not go back and recut. I wouldn't use those anyway. Just starch them heavily. Make them like boards. The Acorn Precision Press, it's a little pricey. It's like $15 for a bottle, but it will really add some structure to your fabric because you have everything on the bias with that. So it'll really add structure to your fabric, because on the very outside of our quilt, we want this straight grain. And you may consider what we did with, you didn't do it, with yours. Take those pieces and do some stay stitching along that bottom edge. So about an 1/8 or 2/8 in, just do a straight line stitch across the bottom of that. So that's going to keep the quilt from being wavy when you finish.
Yeah, it's getting wavy, just putting the.
Yeah. So just take those pieces apart, starch them, just run it through your machine with just straight stitch on the very edge. So less than 1/4 of an inch, because it's going to be covered up by your binding.
That'll make it easy to know which one's the bottom.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
First I gotta figure out which one's the bottom before I.
Yeah. So you can do that by folding in half. Okay. It only folds in half truly one way, right?
Yeah.
So if you fold it either other way, it's not going to fold in half. So if you're not sure, because it can get confusing, just fold it in half, and it makes perfect half.
Got that part.
Okay.
Yeah,
Then,
Rebecca taught us that last
Yeah.
week, last month.
but now I was thinking, well, I should just sit down and mark the top, fold them in half, mark the top so I know which way it's up.
Well, if you do some stay stitching,
Then I could stay stitch.
right on the bottom edge, and you'll know which one is your bottom, because it does get confusing when you're piecing these. And I just do so I start putting 4 rows together at once. So also so I can chain piece, right?
Right.
And so just snip the next one, press it, put my piece on there. And when you're piecing these, they don't line up exactly perfectly like a lot of our things do. I found the best result lining corner to corner. And it's going to be kind of hard to see because I have 2 different colors, or 2 same colors.
But they're real close.
Yeah, they are really close. So
So you're actually matching where the 1/4
This-
inch
corner
seam.
and this
Yeah.
corner match together.
And then you've got one that's kind of wavy that
Right.
you can kind of adjust.
Yeah, well, it's on the bias, so
Yeah.
it's going to be pretty easy to adjust. So what I'm talking about is this corner and this corner line up together. And I'll do it for the people watching.
We got 15 on it.
So what I'm talking about when I'm lining up these corners is this top corner and this top corner line up together when you're piecing this shape. Okay, question. You started?
No.
Okay. So that's kind of a review of last month. This month is pretty easy. This is just piecing. Again, press these open because this does get bulky really quick. And it is a lot of piecing. Don't be mad at me. We're going to do this again next month too with just the same shapes. I divided it into 2 months because it was so much piecing.
Once you figure out which
Yes.
side to sew, it is pretty easy. So if you're doing it a lot, it gets easier.
I usually, and I don't know if this will work for you, but I usually, so I've had more success, obviously I didn't with these pieces for something else, but I usually just lay out my blocks and I'll actually go through and put all my pieces right side up and lay out the block in the order that it's supposed to be, right? So with the square in the middle and the triangles on the side that they belong, and then I will just pick them up, and that way I know. And then do my pressing for that piece, put it back down.
Yeah,
And then-
between picking it up and putting it on the machine, I don't know how many times I've turned it sideways because it's the same block that's in the other,
Yes.
the third Saturday. So
Yes, I don't know what happens between right here and right here.
Because I've got it in my mind, I know that's where it's gonna go, and I'll flip it, and then I flip it again.
Yeah.
And invariably, I've got it sewn to the wrong side of the square.
Mhm. So, yeah, but if you're doing them all, check periodically. Just, don't do what I did. And so 14 of these together, well, actually it was 28 because I sewed 28 of these together because this is a Lori Holt pattern, Farm Girl Vintage 2. And it uses the snowball method, right? So you sew these on and then you just snowball it. And I pieced them all going the same direction, but they're supposed to be leaves, right, on a little flower. So that's kind of what it looks like. So leaf points this way and the leaf points this way. All my leaves point this way.
Oh.
So it happens. And that's just, I wasn't thinking it through before I started sewing. That never happens to you, right?
You just get so excited because you push one through right after the other, and then you go, oh yeah, that was supposed to go that way.
Yeah. So, I think you'll be fine with this. This one is pretty easy. I did want to do a review on this one because this one is kind of a little bit different to piece together like that. Usually it's pieced with those two side pieces to make a square, but it does make a really pretty border. And if you are designing your own quilt and it fits in the math with your cube, so if you're doing a 12-inch block and there's no sashing, then you can add a border like this to your quilt. And I think it's a real stunning border. Looks like it's really hard, but with AccuQuilt, it's not that hard. So.
I have a question from online.
Okay.
Does your Hunter Star die set require Y seams?
No, it does not. The Hunter Star does not require Y seams. Okay. Any other questions?
Pray for us.
May the sewing gods be kind. And your needle always sharp, your bobbin always full. Housekeeping. We are celebrating Robert's birthday is this week. I don't want to say the exact date, but so we are doing 20% off of fabric 1 yard or more, and 20% off of notions. We put the code in for the people online. That is on Quilt Sampler as well. So if you want to go browse their fabrics online, they have different stuff. And Windmill as well. So here, windmillsewingcenter.com, quiltershq.com, and quiltsampler.com. 20% off the fabric, 1 yard or more, and of course all sale items are excluded from that. And check out the new Bernina 990 came in yesterday.
I saw it online yesterday.
It's cool.
It is.
I have so many favorite features on that, but I think my new favorite feature is the color changing wheel. So last week, was it last week? Mm-hmm. Online, I showed a new OESD pattern that just came out for embroidery, and I love doing embroidery. They have a black background, and it's these animals. Well, I wanted to use this
one you have up there, the deer.
No, it's not. It's an applique, so it uses black as the background fabric with the Bernina 990, and so it has kind of this almost 70s golds and oranges and, you know, those daisies that we used to see all the time in the 70s and the reds and stuff like that. So it has that colorway on black. It's pretty, but I want more color. So I'm doing it on these florally purple and mauve kind of colors. With the Bernina, you can load that into your machine and click on the colors, pull up a color, it'll pull up a color wheel, and then you can just swipe the color wheel and it will change all of the colors and keep the contrast and everything. So I can just go, "Oop, I want purple colors, not sage and brown," and it's in the machine, all built in, and it will, so OESD uses Aerofill thread, that's their thread brand. And so if you load it, it's gonna come up with Aerofill thread, and if you do that little color wheel thing, it's gonna change it to the new Aerofill colors.
You don't have to do each one.
You don't have to do each one. It does color matching, so if you're a fan of Floriani because you like the shine, or Glide because you like the shine, you can just go, nope, I want that color to be this, and it will match it to the color already. So no more thread conversion charts where you're like, okay, this one sort of matches this one. Bernina has already done that for you. So that's my new favorite feature.
Goodness gracious.
I know. I think that's going to be a huge one. Okay, thanks for coming. No questions? Last chance.
I did have a question from online, another one.
Okay.
She was wondering what pattern, like, quilt this was, and I noticed I didn't have a link for it. So.
I have not published the pattern for this yet. We will publish the pattern. The name of the pattern is Denim Diamonds, and we will publish this once this club is completed. And I think we have, hang on. So one more month, and then we're piecing.
Oh, wow.
Wow. I was gonna have that much done.
Okay.
I think we have one time piece though.